Hey everybody, Dr. T here. Today we're going to be talking about deterrence, or the ways to stop abuse. Only the typical marital disputes, said one professor of Rutgers Medical School when asked if he had seen people with different physical or psychological characters of abuse. Excuse me. Until recently, people did not see abuse for what it was, and in earlier years, what happened behind closed doors was nobody else's business but the people that lived there. However, because of more and more reports of violence and even death in some cases, abuse has been taken more seriously. There was such a traditional victimization for women by men that there were virtually no sanctions by the state, and was thus conceptualized as a means by which men dominate women. A study done by D. Moore in 1979 found that 80% of the women abused were raised in traditional homes where they were daddy's little girls. If a child is hit by a person that loves them in order to teach them a lesson, that lesson may be carried on through life. This also ties into sociologist Finkelhor's power theory, stating that those who are bigger and stronger typically use power over the smaller and weaker. Patriarchy is a system in which males have dominance through power, and through a hegemonic culture, defines the male way of doing things as normal and male control of women as legitimate. Hegemonic culture denotes that men's dominant position in society is justified and is historically and culturally honored and praised. And this elevation of power and character makes the structure of dominance and oppression in gender unlikely to change. Girls are taught to be nurturing, compliant, and a good passive wife, while boys learn to be strong, aggressive, and the husband in charge. Men also tend to be abusive to show that they're masculine, as a way of doing gender, thus adding to abuse. This toxic masculinity, where the need to be dominant includes the use of violence and control to affirm the perpetrator's superiority. This theory was developed by Dubois and Dubois, who stated that as long as the patriarchal historical pattern is not contested, the exploitation and oppression of women would continue. If abusive characteristics can be learned, then programs that teach the opposite can also be learned. Refuge Education Advocacy and Change, REACH, is one educational program that is committed to the safety of DV victims and education about DV and seeks social justice for all. They provide the tools and resources that are needed for families of DV to heal and to prevent it from continuing in the future by being a constant presence in the victim's life. There is also Haven, which is named after the town in Michigan the program is located in, National Coalition Against DV, or NCADV, and Emerge, which was the first abuser education program in the United States. These are just some of the programs to help stop the cycle of violence. Mass imprisonment is not a sustainable policy, nor is it a solution to combating DV. Educational programs such as the ones I listed, are types of intervention programs that can treat these domestic abuse factors. Ultimately, the hope is for individuals to embrace nonviolent generational teachings and thus end DV. Sometimes a program put the abuser in front of the abused and give the abused a chance to explain how they feel, what they went through. What this hopes to achieve is stimulus reinforcement, which is necessary for the individuals to learn to associate their harmful actions with the pain and distress of others, thus facilitating empathy for victims and discouraging violent behavior. This is a type of restorative justice, where an arbitrator works with the abuser, the abused, and even the family of the abused to join together at a type of conference. Although this form of justice has not been used in DV scenarios, it has begun to show that it increases victim satisfaction and decreases recidivism in other types of criminal acts. Another way to lower the incidence of DV is by deterring abusers using the laws that are now set in place. In Michigan, domestic assault and battery are misdemeanors punishable by up to 93 days in jail and a $500 fine, as long as the person has no prior DV convictions, including violation of terms of a personal protection order. If there was neither weapon nor intent to murder, but the assault causes serious injury, the abuser could see up to a year in jail and a $1,000 fine. However, one issue with any treatment is that many men still have the idea of inequality among gender and feel the need to prove that they are still in charge. To show just how the social environment can influence violent traits, one only has to look at the multidimensional model of Richard Gels, an American sociologist. The multidimensional model takes the exchange theory that states that humans are guided by rewards and punishments and combines it with the control theory that suggests that criminal behavior occurs when there are no societal controls. Gels states that violence occurs when the behavior is rewarded, the exchange, and because family violence occurs behind closed doors, there are no societal controls to intercede, the control. Adding this model to the patriarchy system explained previously and the routine activity theory demonstrated by Lawrence Cohen and Marcus Felsen, where in order for abuse to occur, there needs to be a motivated offender, the perpetrator, a suitable target, the victim, and no capable guardians, the witnesses. It increases the likelihood of violence. In other words, men hit women because they can. Although the information today was geared towards men abusing women, the same can be applied for women who abuse men and all different sexual orientation relationships. As long as one person is abusive towards someone else, there is a power and control that is applied. Abuse is never the answer, and if someone is abusive, they need to seek treatment, as the trauma suffered from abuse can last years after the abuse has ended. Nobody deserves to suffer that kind of trauma. Abuse is not okay, and it needs to stop. If you or someone you know is in an abusive situation, call the National Helpline at 1-800-799-SAFE or text START to 88788. Everyone deserves a healthy relationship.